A what business?
Car detailing.
Car detailing business. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But yeah, it was more so I was bringing up populism because the idea for populism is generally that it's
the idea for populism. Oh my goodness, what is this? Is this a college lecture at the Ivy Leagues?
Well, I'm sorry, you referenced liberalism, so I'm referencing that. I'm saying that to me it makes sense. Because I do think that there is a problem with the left where they have an issue with elitists, right? But the populist right, it doesn't have an issue with elitists. They have an issue with the establishment.
The elitists are liberal. The elitists are leftist. Are liberals.
Oh, sure, to an extent, of course.
There are no conservative elitists.
Sure, of course. The left is more likely to go to college, more likely to have. So I just called into a radio show and wanted to have a back and forth or a debate with a conservative who was hosting the radio show. But he didn't want to have the conversation and instead hung up on me and then proceeded to lie about me. And I have the recording for my side, so thankfully I can show you the proof that what he says happened is not what happened, but, there's a lot to get into here. I feel like this radio show host is a representative of a lot of my problems with the right today, and a lot of the issues that I have with them. So we're going to get into a lot, and a lot of that revolves around the idea of how they all seem to be very offended by the fact that liberals keep saying that they're all uneducated and they don't like being referred to as uneducated. But then at the same time, they are all against education and intellectualism and knowing things, understanding things. And this radio show has just tons and tons of problems here that really bothered me. And so we got a lot to get into. But before we do, some context first. I was finishing my live stream and I was talking about populism all night. Not just talking about the problems that I have with Trump and right-wing populism, but even left-wing populism, and took a long time to talk about TYT, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, and those sorts of people. I just don't like populism across the board, and I think that there's a lot of problems with it. And so I spent a lot of time talking about populism, finished up the show, and raided into the Brian Craig show. This is a guy who does a radio show in the southern United States, and while he's doing his radio show, he's also streaming it onto YouTube. And I've seen on my analytics page that I share most of my audience with Brian Craig. So within the last couple of months, I started raiding into him at night, and I watch the show sometimes to see what he has to say. He's a big MAGA guy, pretty anti-intellectual, doesn't like colleges, doesn't like universities, doesn't like elites, and he's very populist. He just probably doesn't know that he's populist because that would be too intellectual, but you'll see in a little bit. But I was listening to a lady call in as he's blaming liberalism for why the Luigi guy recently shot the CEO, saying that liberalism is just inherently violent.
She got scared that she was going to lose her Senate seat. So she caved. She has not changed, but she's done the right thing right now. So we're going to get Pete Hegseth then, who's probably the best person ever to be picked to be the Secretary of Defense ever. And that's why they hate him, because he's so good and he's not on the take. All right, our number 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hi, Brian. It's Sandra from Boca.
Hey, Sandra. What's up?
Calling about the arrest of that guy, or that CEO.
Oh, yeah, Luigi.
Yeah. Well, my reaction to how people are reacting is kind of shocking. Like, he deserved to die, and he didn't deserve to die because the whole system is corrupt. So, I mean,
well, that's how liberals are. If they don't like you, they think you should be dead. That's how liberals think. Sorry, that's how they are.
they said in his manifesto he referred to other people in the organization, not exactly United Healthcare, as parasites.
Mm-hmm.
So they think this was a master plan to maybe inflict damage on other people in the system. And this was just the beginning.
Don't believe this back pain. I don't care if he's crazy. Most killers are. This is a radicalized leftist who's been radicalized by leftists in the college, okay, and in the media and in his public school education. And this is what the left have done to our youth. And these most recent shooters, whether it's the Trump shooters or this guy, leftist, all of them.
Well, they all seem, if you notice, they have like this trend, these nut jobs that they write these manifestos. I mean, even when you look at Adolf Hitler, when he wrote Mein Kampf, it was the same thing in a way. His political position led him to kill millions of Jews.
But do you agree with me or not that radical leftists have a large role to play in this murder?
I believe, Brian, that the whole world, especially now, the times that we're living in, is determined by influence completely. So
yeah.
I agree, for whatever ideas he was listening to, it influenced him to do this, because you never heard of 25 years ago, 30 years ago, a valedictorian of his class going out and murdering. You just did it.
Yeah.
I do just want to point out real quick, he does press a button, and you can see he looks down and presses a button, and all of a sudden the YouTube channel cannot hear the other person anymore. So you can still hear them on the radio version, but on the YouTube channel, he presses a button and all of a sudden the person's audio goes away. And he did that to me as well while I was on there. You couldn't hear half of what I was saying. I have my full audio, so we'll get to that in a bit, but you'll notice over and over that he looks down, presses a button, and the audio just completely cuts off. And I only have his YouTube version of a lot of these, so you're not able to hear whatever it is that he hears a lot of times. So just wanted to throw that in there, that he is making sure that his YouTube channel can't hear the other person for some reason.
This kid was bachelor's degree, master's degree. So yes, I think there was some very, very influential.
And it is relevant. I made a comment earlier that I'm getting picked up on the speaker of your phone. So I'm gonna end the call, but I appreciate your call. Okay, we got a phone issue. If you're on hold, stand by. I was talking earlier, and I said this in passing, but I want to expand on it. I said I'd be shocked if Luigi was straight. And the reason I say that is that's part of the radicalization, right? If he's gay or something else, he's been brainwashed to think all these crazy things, even to another level of craziness, okay, by the radical left brainwashers.
So obviously this guy is freaking crazy. It sounds like it's his first day talking about politics, but I actually looked into the radio show, and apparently this is like the oldest political radio show in south of the United States, or even in Florida. And he's been doing this for a very long time. You can see the pictures of him on there, and he's very young in the pictures, doesn't have gray hair like he has here. And he's been doing politics for a long time, apparently, but knows literally nothing about politics. I mean, he starts off by saying that he was radicalized into liberalism, which is like, that literally makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. Liberalism is like the centrism of world ideology, but okay, fine. He was radicalized into liberalism. But then he says he was radicalized into leftism, and by like going to college and crap like that, which I know that lots of right-wingers these days don't know that there's a difference between liberalism and leftism. I know that growing up, when I listened to Ben Shapiro, I listened to Dennis Prager, I listened to Dave Rubin, even Candace Owens, all of those people always said there was a difference between being a leftist and being a liberal.
What's the difference between a liberal and a leftist? This question stumps most people because they think liberal and left are essentially the same. But they're not. In fact, liberalism and leftism have almost nothing in common.
I don't equate liberals and leftists. They're not the same.
Okay.
I think there are liberals who believe what old school liberals used to believe, the whole idea, I may disagree with you, but I'll die for your right to say it. But that's a liberal value. That's not a leftist value.
But what is the difference between a leftist, a liberal, and a progressive?
A liberal is just somebody that believes in like the Bill of Rights. So you think that you should have like some freedom of speech, freedom of religion, private property rights. You're probably a capitalist, broadly speaking. Like worldwide, that's what a liberal is. In the United States, liberal just means Democrat. If you go to Europe, they would say like, oh, in the US, like conservatives and Democrats are both liberals. They're liberals. They believe like in democracy. They believe in capitalism. They're both liberals. And then a leftist is usually, in the United States, people will say anybody that's a Democrat is a leftist sometimes. But broadly speaking, like around the world, or sometimes in the US, a leftist is a socialist or a communist, somebody that is not a capitalist.
And then what about a progressive?
Progressive is they can be a liberal or they could be a leftist, meaning they might be capitalist or anti-capitalist. But a progressive is somebody that's usually more social policy aligned, where they feel very, very, very strongly about like anti-racism. It might be like trans, LGBT stuff, white supremacy and stuff like that.
This guy in 2024 is saying liberal and leftist interchangeably, it seems like, or at least he thinks that they're that this guy could be both somehow, maybe. At this point, I wasn't sure. And so, yeah, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking this is a little crazy. And then he says that the guy was radicalized into gayness. So after he says the guy was radicalized into gayness, the next caller calls in to take some issues with that take, obviously, because he sounds like a freaking crazy person when he says this. So he like goes to commercial breaks, but he's still streaming this on YouTube somehow. It actually amazes me that his producers allow him to stream the show that they pay for the mics, the studio, and everything, and then he's able to stream it to his YouTube channel. And he'll talk to the YouTube chat sometimes. While he's on commercial. You can hear it in the background.
We'll be back shortly, guys. Who's Trump picking for transportation secretary? I don't know, but if it's a man, they won't breastfeed. I promise you that.
So yeah, so he takes the next caller who talks to him about the guy being gay. So I'm going to show you that call real quick now as well.
Back, if you're on hold, stand by. I've covered a lot in the first 50 minutes, almost 50 minutes of the program. You're welcome to call in about anything I've brought up so far. Our number, toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Is that you, Brian?
Yes, it's me. Is it you?
Indeed it is. The long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, my goodness. That's the kiss of death. Long-time listener, first-time caller. That's like the last thing somebody on the radio wants to hear. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Oh, my goodness.
The show, which is how I know you don't like it. So, I listen to your show in a thoroughgoing spirit of irony, and every now and again you say something that is so clueless, and I feel compelled to come.
Wait, you're talking about me saying that I'd be shocked if the shooter were straight?
Definitely one of the most asinine things I've heard.
Yeah, I knew that's what you were talking about. How do you think I knew that's what you were referencing out of all the asinine things I've said in the last 50 minutes?
Well, again, it's tough to list, but...
Because my gaydar went off. You're gay, which is fine. It's okay to be gay, but you're gay. So I know you're gay, and I could tell as soon as you said hello, and I knew that's where you were going.
Realize that makes you weird and not me. Right?
No, are you gay?
No, I am very straight.
Oh, please. Okay, go ahead.
I am married, but
sure.
So it's super weird that not only is he like saying like being gay radicalizes you, but also the first caller who calls in, he's now saying that caller is gay, and the caller's trying to tell him I'm not gay. He's like, yeah, sure, okay, yeah, you're not gay, but yeah, sure. I'll admit the guy responding sounding like Tim Gunn afterwards, like, well, I'm married actually.
So I know these women intimately.
It wasn't the best response, but this is wild.
I am married, but
sure. Liberace was married, I think. Yeah.
All right. Economic and Philosophical Manuscripts of 1844, The German Ideology, Das Kapital. What Marx have you read? What philosophical works by Karl Marx have you?
Philosophical works. I've worked for a living since I was in high school. I haven't had time to sit around and read the philosophical works of Marx. Although I did have to read some things in college.
So you haven't read any Marx?
No, actually I did in college. They make you read all kinds of stuff. It was a long time ago when I was in college. Yes.
It was a long time.
But see, so what? I live life. Okay, I don't have time to sit around and read Marx's crap.
Okay. So you don't know what Marxism is, and yet you know it when you see it, right?
Well, there was excuse me, let me finish my sentence.
I'm going to go ahead and skip some of this because there's a lot of, I'm talking. No, stop. Let me talk. No, I want to. So I'm going to skip over some of that and I'll just summarize it. So the caller is saying, hey, you attributed the motivations of the shooter, Luigi Mangione. You attributed his motivations to Marxism. And so now when I ask you if you've ever read Marx, you say no. And so the caller says, what, do you just know it when you see it or something like that? And he's obviously saying that ironically because that doesn't apply here. The radio show host turns around and tries to actually justify that. He doesn't realize he's being made fun of. And so he tries to justify it and says, yes, I believe it was Justice Scalia who said he can't define pornography, but he knows it when he sees it. So first off, it was not Justice Scalia. I believe it was Potter Stewart, who said that he can't define obscenity when talking about pornography. And so he's not saying that there's no definition for this or that he doesn't know anything about it. He's saying that there's a scale that you can take pictures of your kids in a bathtub when they're babies, or you can video record your wife giving birth. And even though you're recording nudity, we wouldn't call this obscenity. And therefore it would never qualify for pornography. So there's a scale here where we go from kids in a bathtub to people recording themselves to have sex, and he doesn't know when it becomes obscene or lewd. You'd have to draw a line there somewhere. And he's saying, I don't know where the line is drawn, but I do know that we know it when it's far past that line. And so I know it when I see it. That obviously doesn't apply to Marxism because there's no scale of when you go from conservatism to Marxism or something like that. There's not a scale there. Marx was a writer. Karl Marx, a philosopher. He wrote a lot about economics. And so if you like his writings, you believe in his writings, then we would call you a Marxist. Or if we're talking about something that Marx prescribed or something that he talked about, something that he wrote, we would call that Marxism. But there is no scale to get there. So Potter Stewart's argument on you know it when you see it does not apply here at all. Yet the radio show host just doesn't even know that he's being made fun of, and he even applies the argument to the wrong justice, and so he tries to justify this anyways. So that's my summary of what it is that he's saying here, because he takes a really long time to say it.
It has everything to do with it. I mean, because of the reference you just made. You don't know what Marxism is, but you know it when you see it. Do you even listen to yourself? So what I'm telling you is that going back to the 1800s and reading what Marx wrote in the 1800s is not the same type of Marxism we have today. As an example, Ronald Reagan famously said, he in a speech before he was governor, when he was going around speaking for GE, Ronald Reagan, he quoted a well-known socialist from the 1930s in the United States, and he said that Americans will never accept communism, but if you call it socialism, they'll accept every last tenet of it. So the Marxism, excuse me, well, you wanted to have an intellectual conversation, and now you don't want me to reference any intellect. So what I'm telling you is that the Marxism that we're dealing with is an updated version that has been warped into something that the left believe that idiot liberals like you will accept.
So again, you don't actually know what you're talking about, but you're...
No, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Just to be clear, he has literally no idea what he's talking about. Socialism and communism are totally different things, especially under the Marxist ideology, where communism is a stateless, classless, governmentless society. It has like no hierarchies. They believe like, lots of hierarchies are unjust. And so they don't believe in like, ruling classes or ruling governments or anything like that. They don't believe in like police. They don't believe in any of that stuff. They don't believe in states. They don't believe in borders. They don't believe in any of that crap. And so socialism is a process used to get to communism. It is just the like in-between process from capitalism to communism. And so Karl Marx, who wrote this process, he hates liberals. He doesn't like liberals. He doesn't like liberalism. He believes that liberalism will always uphold these unjust hierarchies and will always keep capitalism and, elites and all of those things around, which is true. Obviously, liberals love capitalism. They love free markets. They're all about it. But, Karl Marx and Marxists, not so much. So to say, oh, well, actually, if you just call communism socialism, then everybody loves it. Marxism is something that's like inherently against liberalism. Like socialism and communism are anti-liberalism. They hate liberals. Even Marxists today. Liberals are hated by socialists and communists. The word liberal is an insult. They use it all the time. You'll see people in my chat. You'll see leftists come into my chat calling me a liberal, not to say that I'm like, a Democrat or, I'm too far left or something like that. No, they're calling me a liberal as an insult to say I'm against the people. I don't care about the people. I don't care about the working class. I'm just a brain dead person who doesn't understand literature and philosophy and stuff like that. This radio show host, he is against like reading this stuff, right? He has a life. He couldn't possibly, which fair enough. Most people don't have time to go read this stuff. The problem is that he's a political talk show host. This is like 101, dude. These are the basics. If you're going to talk about what a leftist is, if you're going to talk about what it means to be too far left, if you're going to talk about leftist ideology, yet you don't even know the basics, you can't talk about this. I'm sorry. It's insane that he always acts like everybody's too highfalutin and they believe in all of this, super academic stuff from college and all of that. Well, okay, fine. If you don't like that stuff, then don't talk about it. But the people who are on the right today, right-wingers today, they love to call everything socialism. They love to call everything communism, but they don't know what any of it is. They're all running around calling people like Kamala Harris a Marxist and a communist, yet they also say that she's like an authoritarian and crap like that, which if you're a Marxist, you can't be an authoritarian. You don't believe in a state, right? Whereas like, it's true that there's socialists and there's communist states that have been very authoritarian, 100%, but those were not Marxist communist states. They were what we would call Marxist-Leninist or, Maoist or something like that. They're very different from Marxist, where it means they just take some of the economic policy, but they don't really like the social prescriptions. They don't like the moral prescriptions that come from Marx. So they'll just take some of like the economic stuff and pick and choose which parts they like and which parts they don't like, and then they'll turn that into something else. Marxist-Leninism is obviously what the Russians did, where they took some of Marxism and turned it into a more authoritarian type of communism. And then Maoism comes later, where he takes Leninism, Marxist-Leninism, and turns that into his own version. So now that's Maoism. But they're all kind of like taking some things from Marx, but they're not Marxists because they completely defy Marxist ideology. So where this radio show host is sitting here saying. He doesn't read any of this. This is all too academic. It's too boring. He couldn't possibly. But also, he totally knows what he's talking about right after he just said that you can just call communism socialism and it's the same thing and now people accept it. It's all ridiculous.
No, I don't think it's funny when a person, an American law-abiding citizen, is walking down the street and they're murdered. No, I don't think that's funny. All right, but I would thank you for your call, but if I did that, I would be lying. I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody who says things like that and treat them like a legitimate person.
So I was listening on hold the entire time. Normally, anytime I call into radio shows, I go ahead and record from my side as well. And so I started recording while I was listening. I didn't know that he also blamed Marxism for the reason that this guy went and killed these people. I read some of the manifesto, or at least I couldn't find the manifesto in and of itself. I read about the manifesto or what other journalists said about the manifesto. And apparently the guy does talk a lot about the elites. He talks a lot about corporations. He talks a lot about like problems with rich people in America. And to me, yes, this is like what left-wing populism is like the right wing seems to be more upset about the establishment, and their populist issues are going to be cultural. So they're going to be upset about, immigrants coming into the country. They're going to be upset about transgenderism around kids and crap like that. Whereas the left wing, they're going to be upset about the elites. They're going to be upset about, lobbying, stopping healthcare, health insurance, to be done through government, crap like that. And so the left wing has like an economic populism. The guys that they're fighting against are the elites, and the right wing has a social populism where they're fighting against the establishment. From my perspective, it is the populism that is kind of radicalizing people in this way. Now, there's lots of people who are populist on the left who are not running around shooting people. So while I do think that that is what radicalized this guy, and it is what motivated this guy, that doesn't mean that that made him go shoot people. It's just something that plays a part in this. And so that's what I was calling in to talk about. And more so the fact that he's saying that like he's treating Marxism, leftists, all of these, liberalism, they're all the same thing to him, and that these are all radical, violent ideologies. When we look at like mass shootings and assassinations, killings, crap like that, most of it's coming from the far right. Most of it's coming from the radical right. And so where he acts like, oh, it's all leftists. Yes, it's all leftists who are doing this crap. It seems to be that most of the far, radical shootings are coming from the far radical right. And so that's why I wanted to call in and talk to him in the first place, but it didn't really get much of a chance to ever explain my point. And so my idea was, I'm going to call in. I'm going to try to endear myself to him. I'm going to try to, hey, I understand. I get what you're saying. Yeah, totally, man. But I wanted to try to get an actual conversation with him and see if he could make sense of why he believed this and talk this way about the left and the radical liberals and all of this, but not as much the radical right, and why he would blame leftism as a totality when instead of just blaming like more the populist left instead. And again, I wouldn't blame the populist left as a totality because most populists on the left and right are not running around shooting people. So anyways, that was kind of the thought process I was going into calling into the show right now.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Here. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name's Tom. I go by Tomfoolery Show. I'm a content creator. Just rated you a little bit ago on YouTube. It was,
okay.
It was called because
I have no idea who you are, but other than to promote yourself, do you have any content?
Yeah, so I'll admit that's kind of weird. I forgot that he was doing a radio show, and so I just kind of jumped on thinking, yeah, this is a YouTuber. I just rated his YouTube, and so I'm going to call into his show. And I wasn't thinking about the fact that he's doing a whole radio show and isn't really paying much attention to his YouTube channel, so I'll take the L there. Yeah, so I was going a couple of things as you said. You were talking about the shooter, and initially you were talking about the fact that he was a liberal, and you kind of changed from like liberal to leftist or far left. But you were kind of saying that like you think
liberal
that it
and
was
liberal and leftist are the same. A leftist, a liberal is a leftist. Different words meaning the same thing.
Sure, I think in some like colloquial contexts they can be. Like I grew up listening to Ben Shapiro, Prager, and they would always like differentiate them. And it seems like the leftists also differentiate themselves from liberals. But I was more so calling because you were saying that it was like liberal ideology that got this guy to shoot this person. Where in my experience, it seems to be more so that it is populism that is pushing this, and it is the populist left that's currently celebrating it.
What did you major in college?
I didn't major in college.
You didn't go to college?
No, own my own businesses and
with all this intellectual gobbledygook, this is the kind of crap you learn in college. Is why I asked.
Well, yeah,
usually people that talk to you are people that have too much education, spend too much time, like that last idiot. Yes, you heard the last call that I was talking to while you were on hold, the last liberal lunatic who was celebrating the murder of this guy and was talking about it being funny and memes and all of that. The left believe that if you disagree with them, you should be canceled, you should be imprisoned, you should be killed. I mean, look, Gavin Newsom was talking about putting Elon Musk in prison a couple of months ago simply because X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, has free speech on it. That's how the left operate.
When he said this, I had literally no idea what he's talking about. I don't want to stop and pause every single time he says any little thing, but at the time, I literally had no idea what he was talking about, and so I had to go look it up. And it turns out he is just way off. He said that Gavin Newsom wanted to lock up Elon Musk because he had a platform that had freedom of speech. And that is just not true at all. Gavin Newsom and Elon Musk have had a bunch of spats back and forth, a bunch of fights over stupid things. Elon Musk has threatened to move his businesses out of California over laws that Gavin Newsom made, where he's like strengthening gay and LGBTQ protections for schools and students and stuff like that. But the specific one that the radio show host is referencing is this one where Elon Musk shared a video on Twitter that made it sound like Kamala Harris was saying that she was a diversity hire, that like Joe Biden dropped out of the race because he was senile, and California had just come out with new laws against using AI-generated videos to make it look like somebody is saying something that they're not. And so you can't misrepresent somebody using AI. And so Elon Musk had posted a video of Kamala Harris making it sound like she was saying a bunch of things that she never said. And so they asked Gavin Newsom if he was going to sue him. So this is part of the video that Elon Musk posted on Twitter.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time. Another trick is trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's tight.
So this is pretty funny. It's obviously a meme. And when it's obviously parody, you can't get in trouble for it. It's not the same as if it's like you're actually pretending somebody said something that they didn't. But reporters, when asking Gavin Newsom about the new law about AI-generated images that are misrepresenting somebody, they were asking him if it was going to affect Elon Musk. And so Gavin Newsom just responded by saying no.
So do you intend to seek legal action, whether on Elon Musk or any of the proliferating deepfakes?
The law asserts that many can seek injunction relief, and I just signed the law. I just signed 32 other bills on housing, and I haven't had a chance to review the specific lawsuit around a conservative blogger that seems offended by our law, but not the Alabama law or the Florida law.
And so they're asking Gavin Newsom if he's going to sue Elon Musk over this, and he's saying, well, it doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody. I haven't really looked into it, so I don't know. But it's weird that Elon Musk makes such a big deal about the law that we just passed, where we're stopping people from misrepresenting others with AI-generated images, but he never made a big deal about any of the other states that are Republican states and conservative states. He never said anything about their laws where they have the same thing, so I think it's a little weird. And he calls him a conservative blogger, which is kind of funny. But yeah, anyways, nowhere in here did he threaten to lock up Elon Musk for having a freedom of speech platform.
Gavin Newsom was talking about putting Elon Musk in prison a couple of months ago simply because X has free speech on it.
That's just not what that was. And on top of that, using AI-generated images to misrepresent somebody else isn't really freedom of speech and can fall into defamation, and especially when it comes to people who are running campaigns. If you're pretending that they said something that they didn't, they normally have to say things like, I'm Kamala Harris and I approve this message and something like that. If you started putting that into the end of videos, then that would be really bad. There was a video like this that went around that was like white men for Harris or men for Harris or something like that. And a bunch of people represented this as though it was a real campaign commercial when it wasn't. It was a meme. It was obviously a joke. It was obviously a parody. And it even at the end does not have Kamala Harris saying, I approve this message. And on top of that, it literally says at the end that this is not a campaign commercial, but you still had tons of outlets run around acting like this was a real campaign commercial. I mean, right here it says not authorized by any candidate or any candidates committee. But yeah, tons of people ran around and acted like it was real, and they could totally get in trouble for that because you're misrepresenting an actual campaign, and that could be some sort of campaign interference or election interference. And so anyways, the point is that this was not about freedom of speech. This was not Gavin Newsom threatening to lock up Elon Musk because he has a freedom of speech platform. This law doesn't even lock people up. I'm pretty sure it just sues them for generating imagery that misrepresents somebody. And again, it could be more serious in cases of an elected official. But when they ask him if he's going to do it, he's like, yeah, no, I haven't even thought about that. So there's no reason for this radio show host to act like that's what he was going to do, yet he's lying here and saying that Gavin Newsom threatened to lock him up, because that's what liberals do. That's what the leftists do.
And if you go through history, you'll see that everywhere.
Well, I'm more so like so the reason that I reference populism.
I'm curious, what type of business do you say you own businesses, plural? What kind of businesses do you own?
Yeah, not currently. Currently, I don't have businesses, but I've sold off like a car detailing business. I've run car washes.
Business? A what?
Car detailing.
A what business?
Car detailing.
Oh, car detailing business. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
But yeah, it was more so I was bringing up populism because the idea for populism is generally that like it's the
idea for populism. Oh my goodness. What is this? Is this a college lecture at the Ivy Leagues?
Well, I'm sorry, you referenced liberalism, so I'm referencing that. I'm saying that to me it makes sense. Because I do think that there is a problem with the left where they have an issue with elitists, right? But the populist right, it doesn't have an issue with elitists. They have an issue with the establishment.
The elitists are liberals. The elitists are leftist, are liberals.
Sure, to an extent, you're of course.
There are no conservative elitists.
Sure, of course. Like the left is more likely to go to college, more likely to like have these like fancy degrees
That's not
and
true.
shit like that.
That's
but,
not true. Oh my goodness, I had.
Okay, somebody got fucking triggered, I guess. So, yeah, the guy doing an open call-in show just hung up on me, and he totally lied about what happened after he hung up on me, but we'll get to that in just a second. First, I want to address some of the things he said, because during the call, I didn't want to go off on every little path that he tried to send me down, where like, you know, oh, what college did you go to? Oh, well, what businesses did you own? Like when I was younger, he said, what college did you go to? So I just said, I ran my own businesses, as in like, that's what I was doing instead of going to college. So I ran a car detailing business. I had a landscaping business. I've been self-employed for the last couple of years as well. And so I was just trying to like give him small answers so I could get back to my answer about populism. Even when he was conflating leftists and liberals, I said, you know, sure, I guess in some colloquial context that could be true. And he made a face like that is so ridiculous. A colloquial context, what does that even mean?
Different words meaning the same thing.
Sure, I think in some like colloquial context they can be. Like I grew up listening to Ben Shapiro, Prager, but he kept diverting in different directions, and so I couldn't really get away from it. In the last thing, where he says, you know, there are no elitists on the right. All elitists are on the left. I didn't know what the hell that meant. I thought he's been hating on colleges and universities this entire time, saying that they're all brainwashing the left, and so I thought maybe that's what he's talking about. So I tried to throw him a bone and just say, yeah, sure, like obviously people on the left are more likely to go to college and more likely to get degrees, and so I thought like, yeah, like maybe they're more likely to be elites if they're going to colleges and universities. But then he immediately started saying, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. No. And then he hung up on me. So I tried to make sense of what it is he meant by there are no elitists on the right. And there is literally no way to make sense of that claim. None whatsoever. Because when we break it down, an elitist means that you are someone who thinks elites should run society. And elites are people who are normally super rich. They have more access to more things. They have more capabilities because of how much money they have. And so currently, elites are only on the right. He says there are no elitists on the right. Actually, all elitists are on the right. They just voted in Donald Trump, another elite. And they voted in elites before. They are the only ones who have ever voted in elites. I can't think of a time Democrats have ever voted an elite into the White House, but Republicans have done it numerous times. So if being an elitist means that you are somebody who thinks that elites should run society, and Donald Trump is now running the country, then he also has Elon Musk as part of his administration, who's working for them as well, who's also a billionaire. And the Republicans are all excited about that, so they're excited again about another elite being part of running society. Then Donald Trump's daughter, Ivanka, is married to Jared Kushner, somebody who runs private equity firms, and he worked for Donald Trump in the White House as well during his first term. Then Jared Kushner's father is Charles Kushner. Charles Kushner was an attorney until he was disbarred, and he's a massive real estate tycoon. He's worth billions of dollars, and also was hired during this election to serve under Trump as an ambassador. And he also went to federal prison for breaking campaign finance laws and even witness tampering, and Donald Trump gave him a pardon in his first administration as well, helping out elites and bringing more elites into his administration. Then Trump also hired the billionaire hedge fund manager Scott Bessent as the Treasury Secretary.
Donald Trump cannot get out of this deal. I don't want to get out, Vince.
He also hired billionaire Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, to run the Department of Education, the department that they're supposedly getting rid of. Then there's venture capitalist Peter Thiel, who's supposed to have some part in working with the Trump administration. And this makes this current Trump administration above $450 billion, which was making it the richest administration of all time for any president, at least. And just to be clear, even though Elon Musk is on there with $439 billion, which is by far the majority of the over 450 billion, we could get rid of Elon Musk, and this would still be by far the richest presidency of all time. This presidency is only in first place, just ahead of Trump's last presidency from 2016, which was in first place before this. And that presidency not only had the record for the most billionaires, but also had the record for the most lobbyists as well. The guy who's supposed to drain the swamp, get rid of the deep staters and all of that. That's the guy who hires the most lobbyists of all time and the most billionaires of all time, over and over. And this is by far, no one else comes even close. Because we haven't even gotten into all of the Doge people yet. I mean, if you look at this list here, this is from AmericansForTaxFairness.org, and they're naming all the other people who are part of Trump's administration or people who are being nominated that have billions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions. So all of the elites who are running the country and helping run the country are all under another elite, Donald Trump. So they are all voting for elites to run the country. They are the only elitists. This radio show host says there are no elitists on the right. Actually, all elitists are on the right. But fine, okay? Tried to get past that. He didn't let me. He interrupted me, and then he hung up on me. And after he hung up on me, this is what he said.
Like the left is more likely to go to college, more likely to like it.
That's not true. That's not true. Oh my goodness, I had to hit the S word, so I had to hit the dump. If you're on hold, stand by.
So I truly have no idea what he's talking about. I don't know where he got an S word from. I literally went through this like 20, 30 times. I had other people listen to it. Nobody knows what the heck he's talking about when he talks about me saying an S word that makes it to where he has to hit the dump button. And if you don't know what a dump button is, it's a thing that's used for live entertainment, so live radio, live television, even live streaming, where if somebody cusses on your radio show, says words that they're not allowed to say, that's regulated against, you can just click a button that will get rid of it. So normally you're on like a 30-second delay, and you can click a button that will get rid of that delay and make you live. Now, lots of shows will sometimes have the 30-second delay, and you can just dump all 30 seconds, or you can dump 20 seconds, or you can dump 10 seconds, or you can dump 5 seconds, or 3 seconds. And so just depending on what happens, so like on live television, they have dump buttons, if they're talking to people live on streams, lots of people have dump buttons in case somebody like tries to pull out their penis or, flash their breasts or something like that. They have a dump button that'll get rid of however much time that was. And so they just put it on a delay, and then it just cuts that out as soon as you press the button. And normally you'll go to commercial right afterwards so that you can extend that delay again. As soon as the commercials start, so that it'll extend it again, and you'll be back on your delay, and you'll have all the time right back. And if you watch like H3, they use their dump button very often, all the time. I think the Whatever podcast does as well, and radio show hosts who do call-in shows probably have to use it fairly often. The problem is, I went and listened to his radio version, and he didn't even dump it.
The elitists are leftist, are liberals. There are no conservative elitists. There are no conservative elitists.
Sure, of course. Like the left is more likely to go to college, more likely to like.
That's not true. That's not true. Oh my goodness! I had to hit the S word, so I had to hit the dump.
It was all still there just to cover all my bases. I knew that somebody later on in the show cussed, and he said he hit the dump button on that one as well. So I went and checked the radio version of that one just to see what happened there.
You're in North Dakota. You don't know what time zone you're in? Why don't you tell me where you're really from? What time zone are you in?
I'm in North Dakota, you fucking moron.
There we go. Here we go. Yes. Oh, boy. Twice.
You're in North Dakota. You don't know what time zone you're in? Why don't you tell me where you're really from? What time zone are you in?
I'm in North Dakota, you moron.
There we go. Here we go. Yes. Oh, boy. Twice.
It's a freaking miracle. All of a sudden, the dump button works. It's crazy. I guess it just didn't work for me. I don't know what happened. It just, for some reason, didn't cut out all the horrible words that I was saying. Or maybe it just somehow cut it out on my side as well. It's magic like that. It's a magic dump button. But from my perspective, because he was saying that elitists are all on the left, I was thinking, okay, maybe he's saying that, the kids all go to college and get degrees and then they make a lot of money afterwards. And so now they're just elites afterwards. And he's just misusing the word elitist. So I respond by saying, oh, yeah, sure. Like liberals go to college and get degrees at higher rates than conservatives do. But he immediately was like, no, that's not true. That's not true. I don't know why he said that. He's been saying the entire show that the left is like brainwashed because of college.
This Luigi shooter did what he did because he was brainwashed by liberal college professors. This is a radicalized leftist who's been radicalized by leftists in the college, okay? Educated leftist who obviously was brainwashed by his college professors and the such to do what it is that he did, okay? You know, I was lucky that I went to college as an adult, so they couldn't brainwash me.
And then when I said that the left goes to college, your mom goes to college at higher rates, he argued with it. And I think that as soon as he said, no, that's not true, I think he realized that he was contradicting himself and panicked and had to hang up. That's my best thought. I don't know. And I would assume that if he's doing that to me, if he's just getting caught up in a bad argument and realizes he's a fuck, I would assume that he's probably doing this on a lot of calls, a lot of the time. I'm sure that he's getting caught by a lot of people and having to pretend to hit the dump button just so he can hang up on them. Just pretend that they said a cuss word so that he can hang up on them and get rid of them so that they're not making him look as dumb as he actually is.
On 96.9 FM and anywhere in the world at True Oldies FLA.
Alrighty, callers stand by. Our dump button, for those that don't know, the dump button, when someone uses profanity, one of those words, and there's more than 7 of them that you can't use on the radio, we're on a delay, and I have to hit the dump button. And in every studio that I have ever worked in, I've always had the dump button on my right. And the reason that is because I'm right-handed, and every radio station I've worked at, if the dump button wasn't on the right, I've asked them to move it to the right at the different studios and stuff, because you got to be quick on the button. And I believe that this program has used the dump button for profanity more than any other radio show in America, probably. And I've used the dump button so much with our callers using profanity, I developed arthritis in the finger that I use for the dump button. That is no joke. That's how much I've used the dump button. Isn't that something?
Man, that really is something crazy. Well, so yeah, I don't know what the heck that was. I don't know why the guy hung up on me. I don't know why he pretended like he dumped me, but that is my hypothesis, is that, yes, I think that he just wanted to get rid of me because, he felt like I was completely owning him in the marketplace of ideas. Even after he hung up on me, he talked about the fact that I was like too smart and using too many big words and being too educated for him.
But yeah, it was more so I was bringing up populism because the idea for populism is generally that...
Oh, the idea for populism? Oh, my goodness. What is this? Is this a college lecture at the Ivy Leagues? What do you mean populism? Liberals, there are no conservative elitists.
Sure, of course. The left is more likely to go to college, more likely to like it.
That's not true. That's not true. Oh, my goodness. I had to hit the S word, so I had to hit the dump. If you're on hold, stand by. I don't know. This is what I do know, okay? the left over-intellectualize everything, and they think it makes sense. You know, if they use a bunch of fancy words and they quote Marx or something, they think it makes their liberal crap sound intelligent. And I'm here to tell you this. This was a cold-blooded murder in New York of this guy.
So he was able to do his grandstand. He was able to virtue signal about how bad it is to murder somebody. This guy's against murder. Oh my goodness, that's freaking crazy. I can't believe it. Like, what are you going to be against next? Like, rape or like pedophilia? Bro, you're taking things too far. Being against murder? Like, sheesh, bro. I don't know about that one. It's obnoxious how much you like to grandstand over the fact that he was against murder. I will say, there were some people who called into his show calling themselves liberals who were freaking obnoxious, who were kind of defending this crap. And those people are embarrassing, okay? I'm a little out there, you know? I'm a bit of an extremist, but I'm gonna go out on a ledge and say I'm against murder. Like I just am. It's just it's just a vibe. For me, it's just more of a vibes thing. And so, yeah, so I don't know. He didn't want to let me talk. He hung up on me. He said that I cussed. I didn't cuss. And I don't know. I think I could probably sue him over something like this. I mean, that you hang up on me and like make it look like I'm unprofessional, like I'm cussing on a radio show. And I am well known for being professional. Like I am well known for being like very, you know, business cultured and professional everywhere that I go, and that this could hurt my reputation. This is reputational damage. And so yeah, I'm gonna have to speak with all of my lawyers about this one and see what we come up with. But yeah, I appreciate you guys sitting with me for an hour to go over a 2-minute phone call. So, all right then.